Well, welcome into the 305 guys of the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick on 5 Reasons Sports. I got Alex Donno. You can follow him at Alex Donno. We are sponsored here by our friends over at Prize Picks. Use the code 5FIVE. You can play the NHL, which is what we're going to talk about today. You can also play the NBA, NFL when it comes back, college football, MLB, and more. Use the code 5. Like I said, put down the $5, play it, and they're going to give you 50. So that gives you a lot of chances to be wrong, which I was yesterday. Julius Randle, what are you doing? Anyway, use the code 5FIVE, and you get 50 to play right away. All right, Alex, we waited a day to record, and now the Panthers are up 2-0. They have scored 10 goals in this series. Carolina has scored 2. If you go back to the last game against Toronto, the Panthers have now scored 16 of the last 19 goals that have been scored in their games. If you take out that clunker down here in South Florida in Sunrise in Game 6, go back to Game 5. In the Panthers' last 4 road games, they've scored 22 goals and given up 4. 18 different Panthers have scored in the postseason. Now that Forsling got one last night. In fact, Paul Maurice said this morning that the 4 who haven't are on watch. And this comes after, the vibes being immaculate. Brad Marchand took the team to Dairy Queen yesterday. Not the whole team, but to a Dairy Queen in Raleigh. I guess they don't have. I like Dairy Queen. There's one in not too far from me, but I guess they don't have like the chillins there where you can, the frozen ice cream and all that kind of stuff. They went with traditional Blizzard.
Yeah, the Blizzard. Yeah. I'm not a big Dairy Queen guy personally, but I mean, if that works for Marchand and the Panthers, I'm all for it.
Correct. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's not from Boston, but he played in Boston a long time. I've been to. They have good ice cream spots in Boston. Sure. And then I'm playing. If you follow at BR, which is Bleacher Report _Open Ice, you hear Maurice in the locker room, and he basically there's like a 10-second clip, and it's 3 F-bombs, 1 for each goal in the first period. And now you've also got this thing where Maurice says he likes it, where there's a tradition of shooting rats at Brad Marchand after games. All of this is to say they're having fun. And it raises a larger question here. They might be the best team in professional sports right now.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, the only, as you mentioned to me off air, like the only other contender, I guess, would be Oklahoma City, but they're also not defending champions the way that the Florida Panthers are in their sport. The Panthers right now, Ethan, are so dialed in to this point, and I'm sure that once their playoff run is over, and hopefully that ends with another championship, but once that run is over, they're going to need to take a lot of ice baths, and they're going to need to each take a nice vacation, because you can really tell that they've just come to an internal agreement that they are going to leave everything out there on the ice, because you could say they're the most tired team in the NHL. I mean, I guess the Edmonton Oilers in the West would be the same, because they had to play through the finals last year as the Panthers did in that 7-game series that the Panthers won. But, having such a short off season, and, I guess what really worked for the Panthers was Paul Maurice resting some of his guys at the end of the regular season, knowing, hey, to us, health is more important than seeding. Health is more important than home ice. And why the hell not? Because, Ethan, it's reached a point where I feel more confident before road playoff games than I do before home playoff games these days. I mean, I think just the veteran leadership and the physical mentality of this hockey team, I think they really relish going into someone else's arena and being the bad guys. And, part of that, I know that we were all distracted by the 3 F-bombs in 10 seconds, but I was watching that clip from Paul Maurice as well, and I love his sentiment, because he wants, especially when they're on the road, because you don't have the crowd with you, he always wants his bench. Anytime the Panthers have a big shot, a goal, a big hit, like he wants his bench to go crazy and really help kind of build that teamwork mentality. And I think it's really paid off for them. And, you mentioned 18 different goal scorers in the playoffs, which is massive. I also love what Sergei Bobrovsky has already done now with 3 playoff shutouts in the single playoff run, which is the most in franchise history. I hope he gets a couple more of those before this playoff run is over. And even like thinking about other, domestic teams and the dominance. I can even think worldwide, Ethan. I mean, I'm very dialed into the Champions League final in European soccer that's coming up next week because my beloved Inter Milan is playing in that against PSG. And I wouldn't say that either of those teams who are at the pinnacle of European soccer right now, Inter nor PSG, are as dominant right now as our Florida Panthers are in the NHL.
I mean, you would know that better than I can only look at the teams in major sports here. And I mean, if you go through it, Philadelphia Eagles just won the Super Bowl. They won one a few years ago. But I mean, Kansas City, I think, is still probably going to enter this season as a co-favorite. So I don't know, or Buffalo. So I don't know that you can call them dominant in that regard. They were dominant in the Super Bowl. They deserve credit for that. But I don't know that you can call them dominant. Then you look at the NBA. Okay, OKC looks like a juggernaut right now. Minnesota looks overmatched. It looks to me like OKC's toughest series was probably the last one against Denver. But with that being said, they haven't won yet. Okay, they haven't won yet. I think one of the best things that can happen to the league is OKC winning, because then they won't trade a bunch of assets and go get Giannis. Because if they do that, then it's game over. And actually, I might pot on that on 5 on the floor. Like, just root for OKC to win. But I don't know how you can call them the most dominant at this stage until SGA is holding the trophy over his head like he was holding MVP. And then you look at baseball. Well, the Dodgers, yes, their payroll is dominant, but their pitching is not right now. And they get to the postseason with this pitching staff, unless Ohtani is going to be back and pitching 5 days a week too. I don't know that they win again. And baseball is so variable especially based on pitching once you get to the playoffs, that they may not win. There's no dominant team in MLS that jumps out, and so I think you're looking at it, even in the individual sports right now. I mean, in tennis, you don't have a Federer. Djokovic is not at the top of his game. Nadal is retired. I know that with the Spanish kid, Jimmy Butler just won a point off of what I'm talking about. The Spanish player who's replaced Nadal has been number one. But again,
yeah,
he's great. But I'm blanking. And golf. I mean, Scott Scheffler. I mean, and Scott Scheffler. There's no Tiger right now. And so I just look at the Panthers team and I'm like, okay. I mentioned in the last episode that you look at what they put together. It reminds me of the Islanders in the early 80s. They're tough. They're physical. They can get scoring from all their lines. Their general manager understands how to plug in a player here or there, go get a star from another team. And when you are dominant, it doesn't matter if you dominate the regular season because you're still the favorite going into the postseason. Like, I think people get that
Carlos Alcaraz is the
thank you, Alcaraz, player. Exactly. Yeah. But the thing is, like, if you're dominant, you can finish 4th in the East, and it doesn't matter. Like, the Bulls could have finished 3rd or 4th in the East in the Jordan years. It would not have mattered. I know they won 72 games one year, but again, it's not relevant because you're just tougher and better than everybody else in the games that actually matter. And I look at their team right now and look at the heroes in the last series and look what happened last night. Okay, now we're waiting on Reinhardt's injury. If that's a name's MCL, we'll see what the grade strain is, whether or not he's going to be able to come back. Looked like a dirty hit to me, by the way, but I know there's some dispute about that. But you look at the last series, it was mostly Marchand, the second line, Lusterinen, Lundell.
Third line.
Third line, I'm sorry. Yesterday was the second line.
Yes.
Yesterday was the second line. Yesterday was Tkachuk. It was that group. And now Reinhardt's out on the Barkov line. They'll just slide somebody else in. And that's what they are right now. They roll 4 lines, and they get production from all of them. And now if Tkachuk is getting healthy, and to me, that's the best game he's played in the postseason was last night. He was around the net. He was buzzing. He was irritating people. I still don't think he's 100% back. I know Alfredo follows the Panthers pretty closely, thinks he is. I don't see it quite the jump that I saw. But if they're going to get him going now too, like, they can survive the loss of Reinhardt as good as he is. So look, they got 6 defensemen who all can score. Like, that's crazy, and they've got their goalie playing at a very high level. So I don't know if they win this one. First thing, Boston didn't repeat. Okay, KC did not repeat, and the Dodgers may repeat, but they haven't repeated to this point. They would be in the driver's seat. To me, they would be the best team in professional sports right now. They'd be the team that everybody else is trying to model after. And for that to happen for a franchise that literally was going to be yanked out of this area and they were giving away free tickets on Las Olas and nobody wanted them to be the best team in professional sports. I mean, do we understand what is happening here? And there's some Tampa fan on Twitter, Alex, who was like, "Oh, you be a little more biased." I mean, didn't you just get swept in the first round? so I'm just saying, like, it is outrageous how good they've gotten. And not just that, how sustainable this is, which we talked about last year, that they'd be right back in the same position.
I think something that I'm reminded of watching this team is really the importance of chemistry when it comes to building a team, and maybe even more so in hockey than some other sports, because in hockey there's so much extra physicality when it comes to the enforcer aspects and the fighting aspects. So like actually having guys who mesh and love each other, I think really helps build that team in a way that is just not applicable to a lot of other sports. And so I think this again goes to just the brilliance of Bill Zito, right? And of course, Paul Maurice is part of that as well, because he's the one who implements that chemistry in the dressing room and on the bench. But just the way that Zito, and I know he doesn't just look at stats and analytics. That's a big part of the equation, don't get me wrong, but I think he also looks at personalities, and sometimes it comes with a little bit of a risk, because a lot of people thought that like culturally maybe Brad Marchand wouldn't be a fit here because of the bitterness from when he was on Boston and all that, but they have found a way to make that work, and he feels like he's been a Panther for a couple of years, not for a couple of months. In terms of Matthew Tkachuk, I think not only is he finding his form again, whether he's 100% or close to it, this is also perfect timing for Tkachuk against this opponent, because he always kills Carolina. I mean, he's got a 6-game playoff point streak against Carolina. It's just one of those teams, certain players always have big nights against certain teams, and Carolina does not match up well against him. So I think that's super important. And then, going back to what you're saying about, dominant sports franchises, man, doesn't it seem like, and I know that there have been factors and injuries and stuff, but doesn't it feel like Inter Miami should be better than 6th in the Eastern Conference right now in MLS? Like, wouldn't you have thought heading into this year that the Panthers and, the super team in the MLS, Inter Miami, should be both dominant franchises? But it's not been that way so far for Jorge Mas's team.
I'm glad you mentioned it, because our group over at Messi and Company, John and Ashley, have been focusing on this, and the manager, and they're not a fan. And they would know again better than I, but it doesn't seem to have worked out very well. And there's this comparison being made that Messi's playing with like the Garnett Pierce Nets, that he brought over, like his buddies, to basically retire here. Like, he's the one that seems to be still trying. Those who know better than I and follow them closer, but yeah, the Panthers are it. I mean, there's really no way around it. I mean, where I live, I'm taking my daughter over there to skate, because she skates. She's going to be over there today, and for a graduation present, I'm going to let her pick her jersey. And it's like there's like 7 choices. Like there's like, she won't know if she wants Barkov or Verhaeghe or Marchand now, although I wouldn't get Marchand just in case. And Bennett also. I'd be a little careful about those 2 and Ekblad. I'd expect 2 of the 3 to be back, but maybe not all 3. But yeah, you look at what they've put together. It's just like it reminds me. I keep saying this. It reminds me of those Islander teams that I grew up watching, and it's not as skilled as the Edmonton teams that followed that. Because no team in history has ever been. When you had Mark Messier as your second line center, because he was playing behind Wayne Gretzky, and you had Glenn Anderson and Yari Curry as 2 of your primary wingers, and Grant Fuhr in net, and Paul Coffey was your top defenseman. You're talking about 6 Hall of Famers, including the greatest player of all time, and maybe the greatest 2-way center of all time in Messier. You're not gonna, you can't replicate that. But they look a lot like my Islanders teams, and that's the team I fell in love with. Just tough, scoring all over the place, culture, total fits. It's been remarkable. All right, on the other side of this, we'll talk about what needs to happen the rest of the series in Sunrise. Before we do, I want to mention Prize Picks again. Use the code 5FIVE. Put down the $5. You get 50 to play right away. Prize Picks, the official fantasy sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We'll be doing a show later today, so we'll touch on that. Greg and I and Eric Wiedeke will be doing a show later today. Get you ready for the Knicks. Poor Knicks. They named streets after everybody before they even got out of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Is that real? I saw that.
No,
I saw
is
you.
Real.
My God, I saw you post that, and I'm like, surely that is a deep fake, like one of these AI. You know, when somebody turned me into an action figure a month ago, and I knew it wasn't real. I thought that the Knicks streets were fake.
No. It is real, and then Cat is the easy pass. But basically, that's where that is. But yeah, we'll see what Halliburton does to them tonight. Larry David, that should be an episode. Watching him reel there, but we'll go through the props tonight, or it's not supposed to be props. We'll go through the.
By the way, speaking of
tonight.
New York franchises, do you remember there was an episode? I think it was a later season of Curb Your Enthusiasm when like one of Larry's friends at the country club was like super depressed about the New York Jets. And then he committed suicide, and then Larry was like, "I'm pretty sure it was because of the Jets," and there was the whole thing.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sorry to take it to a dark place, but you brought up Larry David. You got me thinking.
I might want to off myself if I was Larry's friend. But it wouldn't even have to be the Jets. But Alex, all right. So let's close here. If they're the best team in sports right now, they're going to finish this series relatively quickly. Our guy, Alex Baumgartner, has travel plans scheduled for Carolina. I told him not to finalize anything at this point.
Yeah.
The Panthers have had a habit of kind of having a clunker at home when you think they're in control of everything. But with what I think is going to be a long series between Edmonton and Dallas, they would be well advised to just get this thing over with. Carolina looks like they have no. I mean, I'm watching that TNT broadcast last night, and look, Biz was not on it. I think Hedrick Lundqvist is great, by the way, and he was crediting Bob, saying he's the best big money guy in the sport right now. And they were just saying like Carolina their forecheck is gone. They look lifeless. They don't. I don't know. To me, as much as Toronto got bleep about their attitude and kind of Carolina looks like they have less. I sort of feel like this doesn't feel like the Eastern Conference Finals. It feels like that happened against Tampa and Toronto. You think they finish it off here at home?
I don't, only because again, I feel like they're going to have one letdown game over these next two, and Carolina, obviously they're fighting for their lives right now, their playoff lives. So would not surprise me if the Panthers have a bit of a letdown in game 3. Give Carolina some hope, 2-1 series. Panthers go up 3-1 and then close it out in game 5 in Carolina. Because again, I honestly trust this team so much on the road. I would not blame them if they have a bit of a letdown for one of these home games, because they've essentially been on the road since game 7. I'm sure like they maybe returned home for a half day between those two series, but they've done for their past 3 games on the road is blow out Toronto in game 7 and then blow out Carolina in games 1 and 2. So I think there could be a little bit of a letdown coming in game 3 or I'd rather the letdown be in game 4, because give me a 3-0 lead first. But I think we're going to have a letdown, and then they're going to end up closing this thing out in 5.
I think you're right. I think they close it out on the road. That's been their pattern. So I could see that happening again. I think there will be one letdown game here. I think it probably will be this next one. And then we'll see what happens after that. But look, even if they're dominating Carolina, it's hard to sweep. They swept this team 2 years ago. It's hard to have double sweeps. And these games have been more dominant. Those were all 1-goal games.
And so 2 overtime games.
This looks like a mismatch, but I kind of agree with you on that one. All right, Alex, appreciate it. Use code 5FIVE at Prize Picks. We'll have a show later on today. Follow our crew, of course, Messi and Company, 5 on the floor, 3 yards per carry, all Dolphins, and everything else that we do here on the network. Have a good one.